Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. So today we'll be talking on IPO. So what are the key terminologies used, the key pointers, at what time does the IPO trade, and so on. So let us begin with it. Can we move to the next slide, Omkar? Yeah. So what is IPO? So first of all, IPO stands for the initial public offering. So IPO is nothing but a public issue of shares by an unlisted company, which means that it is not listed and it is listed for the first time to the general public in a primary market, which is also called a new issue market or a primary market. Over here, the existing investors, they dilute some holdings and to have a public participation. So majorly what happens when the company makes its first IPO to the public, the relationship is between the company and the investors, and the money flows to the company as its share capital. Then the shareholders become the owners of the company through their participation in the company's IPO and have ownership rights over the company. This is the largest source of funds for a company, and this helps the company to create fixed asset which would be employed in the course of business. The stakeholders of the company are free to exist their investment through secondary market. So secondary market is nothing but once the IPO is listed, then they can exit their holdings through trading. Omkar, can we move to the next slide? Yeah. So as we can see in this slide, see over here before the IPO, the shareholding of the promoters is 100%, and once it is listed, the shareholding of the promoters is being diluted, where you have public coming in, and once the public has applied for the IPO and they have been allotted the IPO, then they can sell their holding on the stock exchange where the buyer and seller, as we do in the secondary market. So that is the follow which goes for the sellers. Yeah. Next slide. Abhishek, next slide. Yeah. So now let us discuss some of the common terminologies which is used in the IPO. So first we have is DRHP. So it is a draft prospectus, and this is submitted by the company to SEBI at least 21 days before the IPO. Once that is approved, you have the RHP. So generally the difference between DRHP and RHP is that sometimes the financials have been revised. So that is why you have to look for the RHP. So DRHP is the draft prospectus, RHP is the final prospectus. Then second one, you have the price band. So that means that the what is the price range within which the investors can bid for the IPO shares. Then you have offer date. So this date, it means that this is the first date in which the investors, they can apply for the IPO, and it is also known as the opening date. Then you have the lot size. So we all know that the range is around 14,500 to 15,000. So depending on the price band, the lot size is being done, and that is the minimum number of shares which you can apply in an IPO. Then you have the floor price. So floor price is the minimum price for which you can bid. Below that you cannot bid. So floor price is the minimum price. Then you have the cutoff price or issue price. So that is the price at which the IPO is allotted at that price. So that is known as the issue price. So then you have oversubscribed. So oversubscribed means that you have applied for an IPO and that has surpassed the limit which the company has offered. So that becomes an oversubscription. So therefore, that is being calculated in times. That is it oversubscribed 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, etc. Then you have the listing date. So listing date is nothing but on that day the IPO has been traded on the stock exchange, and at that time whoever the investor has been allotted the share, they can sell off their holding on the listing date or afterwards whenever they want.
So I hope I'm audible to all of you. Just to sum up what Harsh has mentioned. So basically, these are the important part of the IPO that one investor have to keep in mind. That is the RHP, price band, offer date, lot size, floor price, then we have the cutoff price, oversubscribed listing. So all these are the important development whenever a person bid for the IPO. And as he rightly mentioned about the the floor price, the price below which you are not allowed to bid for the IPO, that the cutoff price basically is the final price which the company decides about the IPO. So what happened that within the price band you have to bid for the IPO. The final price is decided by the company with the help of the merchant bankers. Generally, the issue price is the upper band of that price band, and the oversubscribe is the number of time the IPOs got subscribed. So normally, what happen, a good IPO get oversubscribed by multiple number of times, and post closing a subscription period, the IPO get listed. And finally, we have the ASPA, which is an important, I would say, a development or terminology that which one should be aware of that. So ASBA is nothing but it's an application supported by blocked amount. It means that when you bid for the IPO, the amount equivalent to your bidding is basically blocked in your account. It is not debited till the IPOs get allotted in your name. So earlier, if you remember, 10, 15 years back, people used to sign a check in the name of the company, and then finally, they get the allotment. In the process, if they do not get the allotment, the money turned back to them. So in the interim time, they used to lose the interest component. So that is no longer exist. So ASBA is a very important facility which allows you to block the amount and help you to bid for the IPO. So Harsh, you can continue now. Thank you.
Yeah, Abhishek, can we move on to the next slide? Yeah, now let us discuss the key points. So first we have is the key issue details. So over here we have the opening and closing dates of the IPO. So like what are the dates of the IPO? Then you have the price band. So the range, as we earlier discussed, the range of price of the IPO. Then you have the lot size and who all are the merchant bankers. So that is one. Secondly, you have the financials. So one has to clearly go through the recent financials of the company, at least for the past 3 years. How has been the sales revenue, like the revenue, EBITDA, PAT, the CAGR, and what valuations are they trading at as compared to its peer valuation. Then you have like who all are the promoters and how is their integrity. Like you should know like the the corporate profile of the promoters and what is the composition of the board, the promoters qualification. So that is also an important aspect to look out for. Then like you should also go through what is the purpose of IPO, like whether the promoter is raising money for what, whether it is for capex or whether it is for repayment of his debt, or whether it is for general corporate purpose or for his short term working capital. So that needs to being looked into. Then you have the business model of the company. So you should look after that, what is the company's market share, well, like whether it is in the organized sector, so how much is the market share of the company in its organized sector, what are its products and what are its brand, what is the pricing power, what is its customer base. So all these aspects should be looked into consideration. Following that, you have the industry outlook. So you should also look at the Indian industry, like how is it, whether it is on a growing stage or a declining stage, or whether it has been matured, at what pace is the industry growing. Suppose you take an example of metals. So generally it trades at, like the metal companies grows at a GDP rate of like 7 to 8%. However, the metal ERW companies, so they generally grow at a CAGR of 10 to 12% per annum. So this was just an example. So you should just go through the pace at which the industry is growing. You should also look through the auditor's report, like whether there is any unqualified qualified opinion about the auditor stated for the company, and what is the dividend policy of the company post issue, like what is the dividend payout ratio what the company is offering.
And just to add on to this, audio नहीं है.
Yeah.
Out.
Yeah. So now moving on to the other key pointers where you have the company valuation. So you should compare the company's valuation with its other peers. Like for example, if you take the metal pipe industry for the ERW segment, so over there you have APL Apollo being the leader. So that generally trades at a PE of 50, 54 times, and other peers you have, which is JTL. Then you have Rama Steel Tubes, you have High Tech, Good Luck, which generally trades at a PE of 20 to 25, 28 times. So, like you should generally compare the peers. So APL generally trades at a higher premium valuation because it has a market share of 60% plus, and it holds a majority of share. So that is why a premium valuation is given to APL. So in the same way, you should also look out for the peers, like what valuation is the peers trading and what valuation is the company trading, which you are applying for the IPO. Then you have the holding structure pre and post issue. So like example, like promoter is holding a stake of 99% pre-issue, and post dilution is holding a 75% or a 60%, which generally is a good sign, but a significant drop in the dilution of promoter stake is not a good sign. So that also needs to be looked. Then you have how is the company expanding its capital base, and whether the company has earlier given too much bonuses, so that also needs to be taken into consideration. So all these aspects are important. Then you also have risk associated with the business, because with every business you have a risk also attached to it. So there are many risks which are in general, and there are other specific industry risk as well. So that both the risk needs to be taken into consideration. Sometimes if you talk about metal industry, sometimes any changes, like you have mining. So if any changes in the government policy may hamper the growth of the industry and the company, so that all consider that all things needs to be looked after. Then you have the key regulations that affects the IPO of the company. As I earlier told, that government policies and all should be taken into consideration. You also need to see that the revenue which the company is deriving is not only from its top two clients or top five clients. It should be diversified. So that would help the company, like the other revenues. It will help to grow it will help the company to grow, having a diversified business model. Moving on to the management discussion and analysis. So this is generally in the annual report. This you find in the annual report, where it is the company, it is written about the company in detail. What is the company overview? What is the global economy? What is the Indian economy? Like what is the Indian industry, global industry? So all things have to be read carefully. Along with this, once the company has been listed, you should regularly go through his con call. So con call is nothing but once the company declares their quarterly earnings, after that they generally initiate a con call where they give a feedback on how was the quarter, what went wrong, what was right. So that also needs to be listened and taken into consideration, because that gives a lot of insights regarding the quarterly earnings of the company.
Am I audible? Omkar, am I audible to you? Okay. So, as mentioned by Harsh regarding the other key pointers to look at before investment into the IPO. So, in addition to the basic details, we also have to look at the company's valuation, at what price the company is trading at. Generally, a peer comparison will help you. Generally, these valuations data is so the valuation data are available in the RHP. One can look at those data available. Holding structure pre and post is also important. That means you have to look at who's actually selling the IPO, or who is selling the shares. Is it the promoter or the existing investors? What could be the holding structure post listing? So one has to look at that. If promoter is completely exiting the company, then the serious question we even need to ask before subscribing such IPOs. Risk is very important factor that one has to keep in mind before going for the IPO. Generally, there is a separate section in the RHP as far as the risk is concerned. So you have to look at all those risks before investing into the IPO. Then we have regulation that affect the IPO bound companies. तो वो भी एक इम्पॉर्टेंट फैक्टर है जिसको आपको देखना चाहिए. मैनेजमेंट डिस्कशन एनालिसिस एक इम्पॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है, इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट है RHP का, जिसमें प्रमोटर हैं या उनके डायरेक्टर्स हैं, वो कंपनी के बारे में डिटेल एनालिसिस देते हैं. तो आई थिंक दीज आर दी, और ये डेटा जो एनुअल रिपोर्ट में भी अवेलेबल होता है. तो बिफोर यू इन्वेस्ट इनटू द IPO और एनी कंपनी फॉर एग्जांपल, these are some of the fundamental points that one has to keep in mind before the investment.
Yeah, next slide, Omkar. Yeah. So this is about, now we'll speak on what is the listing of IPO details. Earlier we had SEBI had introduced T plus 6 days earlier, which was being followed. But in 2023, the SEBI has reduced the timeline to T plus 3 from T plus 6. So they have, the IPO also have a pre-opening trading session on their listing date. And during this session, you can enter, modify, or cancel the transaction, but it won't get executed. So you have from 9 to 9:45 is the pre-open trading session of the IPO. After that, from 9:45 to 9:55, generally you have the price discovery, where the pre-open orders which have been entered or modified, they generally take place in from the time of 9:45 to 9:55 a.m. And from 10 a.m. onwards, the normal trading, the normal after listing, the trading starts on the secondary market. So this is the like follow, like from 9 to 9:45, you have the orders which have been entered. From 9:45 to 9:55, the price discovery is been done, and where the pre-open orders have been executed, and from 10 a.m. onwards, the normal trading is commenced.
So just to sum up what Harsh has mentioned, जनरली क्या होता है कि आईपीओ की लिस्टिंग जो है 10 बजे होती है. जैसे नॉर्मल मार्केट की ओपनिंग जो है 9 बजे 9:15 स्टार्ट हो जाता है. 9 से 9:15 के बीच में भी हैव अ प्री ओपनिंग सेशन. उसके बाद में फिर नॉर्मल ट्रेडिंग जो है वो 9:15 बजे स्टार्ट होती है. वैसे ही जो आईपीओ की लिस्टिंग होती है वो 10 बजे होती है. तो प्री जो टाइम या प्री प्राइस डिस्कवरी जो होती है आईपीओ की, वो 9:45 से 10 बजे के बीच में होती है. तो ये थोड़ा सा आपको ध्यान रखने की जरूरत है कि लिस्टिंग टाइम जो आईपीओ का होता है वो थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट है एज कम्पेयर टू नॉर्मल ट्रेडिंग आवर.
Yeah, next slide. Yeah. So here, we'll discuss about what are the factors which generally leads to a bumper listing of an IPO. So, like, as we all know that Tata Technology had a very bumper listing on back of its attractive valuation, because, it was trading very cheap as compared to its peers like LTTS, you have KPIT Tech, which were trading relatively higher. So it had a very low valuation, therefore it had a bumper opening. You have IREDA, which had a good run, which is also now, which has given a massive return till date from its listing. Then you have niche business like Idea Forge, where the company is into company security and surveillance. You have Gandhar oil, which is in specialty oil, which is white oil, and it is used in multiple industries such as pharma, chemicals, and all. Then you have Inox India, which is also a niche business where it produces cryogenic cylinders and it is used in several industries. Then you have Cyan DLM, which is an EMS player, and that the company, it manufactures PCB, which is also used in multiple industry. And recently you had a listing of DE Development Engineers, which is a process piping solutions, and this company is also a niche company, which helps in which is also used in several industries. Then like all these companies, you should look after its growth outlook of the industry, like what is the industry outlook and what is the company outlook, like what the management has guided for the next 3 years, its revenue, its EBITDA margins, and its PAT, whether any like what capex they are going to do, or whether there is any debt repayment. So all factors need to be taken into consideration. So what is their vision, like in 3 years they eye for a, like from a 500 crores revenue to 2000 crores revenue. So what is the growth driving that, like what and which products will drive the growth? So that needs to be taken into consideration. And overall, what is the market response in the company as well, overall market response in the company, like in the industry as well. So that everything that needs to be looked into consideration for the factors for leading to for a bumper listing of an IPO.
So just to sum up what Harsh mentioned about the factors affecting the bumper listing. तो आजकल कैसा हो रहा है कि हर कोई आईपीओ में इन्वेस्टमेंट करता है, बट आपको यहाँ पे ध्यान रखने की ज़रूरत है कि हर आईपीओ बम्पर लिस्टिंग नहीं होती है. उसके पीछे कई कारण होते हैं. मतलब अगर एक आईपीओ अगर बम्पर लिस्टिंग हो सकती है, होने वाली है, तो पहली बात तो कंपनी क्या है, उसका प्रमोटर कौन है, बिजनेस कैसा है, क्या बिजनेस जो है यूनिक है या नहीं है, किस वैल्यूएशन पे आईपीओ आ रहा है. बहुत सारे ऐसे फैक्टर हैं जिसके ऊपर जो है बम्पर लिस्टिंग डिपेंड होती है. केवल सब्सक्रिप्शन का नंबर देख करके वी कैन नॉट फाइंड आउट कि ये लिस्टिंग बम्पर होगी या फिर ये डिस्काउंट में आईपीओ खुलने वाला है. तो दोस्तों, बिफोर यू गेट इन टू दी आईपीओ इन्वेस्टमेंट, you have to ask basic question about that company. Who is the promoter, what are their visions, वेयर दे वांट टू टेक द कंपनी इन द फ्यूचर, बिजनेस किसके अंदर वो करती है, उसका इंडस्ट्री साइज क्या है, क्या इंडस्ट्री आज अगर 10 रुपए के आसपास है तो क्या एक कल 100 होने वाली है, क्या यह 200 हो जाएगी, क्या उतनी स्केलेबिलिटी है उसके अंदर, क्या बिजनेस यूनिक है, क्या कोई कंपटीशन है उस बिजनेस के लिए। ये सब सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं जो आपको अपने आप से पूछना चाहिए। इफ़ यू श्योर कि ये सारे क्वेश्चंस जो है इस कंपनी के लिए फिट बैठता है और इन्वेस्टमेंट करने पे पैसे आप जनरेट कर सकते हो रिटर्न, तो आई थिंक इट इज़ ऑलवेज एडवाइजेबल टू गो फॉर द इन्वेस्टमेंट। तो इस स्लाइड का एक ही कंक्लूजन ये है कि हम ये नहीं कहते कि सारे आईपीओ में बम्पर लिस्टिंग होती है। जैसे यहाँ पे हमने कुछ एग्जांपल्स दिए हुए हैं, जैसे आइडिया फोर्ज है, गंगार ऑयल है, आइनॉक्स है, प्रोटीन ई गवर्नेंस है, या डी डेवलपमेंट है, टाटा टेक्नोलॉजी है, IRDA है, उत्कर्ष स्मॉल फाइनेंस बैंक है। तो ये सारी कंपनियां अपने आप में यूनिक थी और इसीलिए इनका जो आउटलुक था वो बढ़िया था, और इसीलिए हम देख रहे हैं कि ओवरऑल जो है लिस्टिंग गेन जो है बढ़िया रहा और ये कंपनी अभी भी अच्छा ही कर रही हैं। तो एक और स्लाइड आपको बताएंगे हम कि क्या सारी कंपनियों में लिस्टिंग अच्छी होती है, क्या वो सस्टेन करते हैं, कि सस्टेन करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। केवल एक दिन की लिस्टिंग के बाद में नेक्स्ट डे अगर स्टॉक गिर जाता है तो दैट्स वेरी वेरी सैड फॉर द इन्वेस्टर्स। तो ये भी आपको देखनी जरूरत है, क्या ये लिस्टिंग गेन सस्टेन करेगा भविष्य में। ये कुछ ऐसे क्वेश्चंस हैं जो आपको अपने आप से पूछना चाहिए बिफोर यू गो फॉर द इन्वेस्टमेंट इन द IPO।
Yeah, Omkar, next slide. Yeah, so here, as we can see, in the past 15 months, these were the 15 companies which has, given a robust listing since 1st April 2023. Like as we earlier discussed, Tata Tech, which was comparatively trading at cheaper valuations from its peers, like LTTS, TPIT, it gave a massive listing gain of 140%. So here, these are the 15 companies which we have presented during the past 15 months, which has given the highest returns. Then let us move to the next slide, Omkar. Over here, as you can see, over here we have presented an data about, like as from the date of their listing till date, like till 12 July 2024, which companies has given, massive returns from their listing. So, you don't have to just, overheard the crowd and just list. You need to check its fundamentals and all. Like whether the company is doing good, as we earlier discussed, what is the management vision, and what are its products, what is growth, whether it is a monopolistic business and all. So these are the 15 companies which has given massive returns till date from the date of listing. As we can see, IREDA has given the highest returns over there, as you can see, 812.5%, followed by Muthoot Microfin giving 534%. As you can see, Muthoot didn't have a good listing because it was, it had a degrowth of 5.4%. But as you look, the return which it has given since listing, it is 534%, followed by NetWeb, Signature, Jyoti. This top 15 companies has given more than 100% return. Now, Omkar, yeah, let us move to the next slide. And this slide shows that these companies had either listed above their listing or had not listed and were below their listing gains. But as you can see, till date they have given negative returns. So it is very important for an individual or an investors to go through the financial statements, assess the balance sheet, the P&L, cash flows, everything, and they should take into consideration before investing, and just not overheard the crowd and just put their money blindly. So these were the three important aspects, where we saw a bumper listing, and after listing also, which all companies gave a massive return, and the companies which showed a degrowth after their listing.
सो फ्रेंड्स, जैसे ये टेबल हमने दिखाया तो देयर वी वर ट्राइंग टू गिव some insight that not every company having good subscription number tend to deliver the decent return even after listing. So यहाँ पे कुछ examples भी दिए हुए हैं जहाँ पे लिस्टिंग अच्छी होने के बावजूद भी, या यूँ कहें कि थोड़ा सा फ्लैट लिस्टिंग हुई, बट वहाँ भी स्टॉक जो है वो डाउन ट्रेंड में चल रहा है। आज के प्राइस पे देखेंगे तो वो स्टॉक अभी भी डाउन चल रहा है। तो आपको जो है हमेशा फंडामेंटल फोकस करना चाहिए। कंपनी फंडामेंटली अच्छी है तो ऑब्वियसली यू विल गेट गुड रिटर्न।
Yeah, Omkar, can we move on to the next slide? Yeah, now we are so this is our SBI Securities website where we publish our IPO notes. So one can view from this site. Like I'll show you a live demonstration here itself. Just give me a minute. Yeah. Now, like I'll show you. Like yeah, so one can go onto Google Chrome and just write over there SBI Cap Securities. And you have a tab above which is research. In that you have to go to fundamental research, and at the right hand side you have IPO notes. So let us just see one of the IPO note. Over here we all upload our IPO notes, so like any user can see and go through the IPO note over here. And we also do share in our WhatsApp, web and Telegram channels and all. Yeah. So here, as you can see, this is an IPO note which we had prepared on DE Development Engineers, which is into process piping solution and is a niche business. So on the right hand side table, you can see the issue details over here. So over here, you have, like, we have given the details, as we had earlier spoken on the date of opening and date of closing. So when does the IPO begin and when does it end? Then you have the price band, which is set over here. Then you have OFS, which is offer for sale. So generally, a company may issue an OFS or a fresh issue or a combination of both. So here the company has given an OFS of 45 lakh 82,000 shares, and the fresh issue size is around 325 crores. And then the issue size is generally at so over here, as you can see, it was at 418 at the upper price band. The issue size and the number of shares which we had calculated over here, as you can see. So issue size is nothing but the total number of shares which is offered, so which is OFS plus the fresh issue into the IPO price. Then you have the face value, like whether it is 2, 5 or 10. And then we have given a data on the post issue market cap, like after listing what will be the market cap at the upper price band. Then followed by that, you have the merchant bankers. So in this, we were the merchant bankers like SBI Capital Markets, Equirus Capital Private Limited. Then you have the registrar, which was Lincoln Time India Private Limited. Then you have the bid lot, like we had earlier discussed. Depending on the price band, you have the bid lot. So the investor can, a lot can be, apply for this much number of shares, like the bid lot, like one, two. Then you have the retail shares, like around 35% of shares is will be allotted to the retail side. Then moving on, over here on the left hand side, you have the company overview, where we discuss, where we give a detailed introduction about the company, like what does the company do, where are its operations, how much is its domestic and exports contribution, followed by the key highlights over here, where we generally share the company's investment rationale, like why is the company good, like why you should apply for the IPO. So over here we share the details over here. So what are the company's key investment rationale? That is a very important aspect to look out for applying an IPO. On the right hand side over here, you can see the shareholding pattern. So earlier pre-issue over here, it is given where the promoter had 100% stake, and post-issue at the lower price band, you can see the promoter's holding has diluted to 69%, and at the upper price band, it has diluted to 70%, where public has the remaining 30%. So over here, we cover the shareholding pattern, which is pre-issue and post-issue at the lower price band and at the upper price band. And next to it, you have at the left, on the left hand side, you have the valuation, where we generally tell at what price the investors pay, and what is the value which is received. There are multiple valuation techniques. You have like price to earnings, which is P. You have price to book value. You have DCF valuation. You have SOTP valuation, which is sum of the parts valuation. So here we generally give our valuation, and you can go on, take a particular ratio to compute on. Then moving on to the next page over here, we cover the risk factors. So generally, what are the top rated risk which the company may face? Like we had earlier discussed, like is it heavily dependent on its top five customers, or whether any is the industry declining, or whether any government policies have been introduced which may hamper the growth of the company. So etc. Over here we discuss our risk factors. And then you have the growth strategy, where we generally discuss what is the growth strategy for the company. Then moving on to the third page, like we generally talk on the industry overview, like the like how is the industry over, like what is the industry shaping, where we discuss the size of the industry, where what is its growth outlook, what is the dynamic of the industry, and what all products or services the companies offer and its outlook, and whether any and what are the regulations which can affect the industries. So here we cover the industry overview, where all these parameters we cover over here. So this is the industry overview, followed by the financial snapshot. So this is nothing but the financial statement, where we have given for the past 3 years, like FY21, 22, 23, whatever is the respective year. So here we generally give a detailed financial statement and P&L statement and balance sheet. So this generally gives us the idea of the what is the quantum of income the company generates, is operating margins, what is this EPS, and balance sheet we also give, because that generally provides the application and source of funds, what is the leverage position of the company, and so on. Then moving on, like we generally cover a ratios table, where we have covered all the major aspects of the ratios, which is related to profitability ratios, margin analysis, the liquidity position, like what is its liquidity position, what is the solvency position, and what is the valuation position of the company. And last, we have a table on peers, like whether the company is overvalued or undervalued as compared to its peers, as we had earlier spoken on Tata Tech, which was relatively trading at a cheaper valuation than its peers like LTTS and KPIT. So over here we gave a peers comparison table where you can compare with the generic aspects, like what is the PE, what is the EV by EBITDA for its peers, what is the ROE, what is its ROCE. So this data helps to get a larger picture about the company. Yeah.
So we highlighted about how one can invest into the IPO. We have also shared our website where we upload all our IPO notes, and we have shared what are the different sections that we cover in our reports. Now the floor is open for the questions. So there are a few questions in the chat box. We'll try and answer those things. And in meantime, if anyone wants to ask any question, they can keep posting their question in the chat box. We'll try and answer one by one. But
Yeah. So one more thing, like I would like to highlight, there are many factors, one should look into consideration. Like, a layman or an individual investor should not make, common mistakes of applying an IPO, such as you should not ignore valuations, because that is a very important aspect, like whether it is trading, like whether it is overvalued or undervalued. And on the then second is on the anticipation on the basis of gray market premium. So one should have a thorough research, just not blindly follow what is the GMP given in the any particular website and all, or neither on the basis of oversubscription, like whether the company has, like it is oversubscribed for more than 10 times, 20 times. So that is not a parameter for applying an IPO. Then other examples you have, like following the crowd or unrealistic expectations that the company should trade at this value, that value. So you should have a very detailed working on that, and then apply after looking every aspect into consideration. Yeah, now we have the floor open for Q&A.
so let me take few of the questions here there in the chat box. We'll try and answer one by one. So Mr. Gaurav Ingole has asked about how to identify multi-bagger stock ideas for next 6 months. So Mr. Gaurav, it's very difficult to give you the stock idea. This session is basically meant for the IPO. So we try and answer the question related to the IPO only. Regarding how to identify the stocks in the for the multi-bagger thing, I think whatever we have covered in our IPO section, the basic terminology or basic details one has to look at before investment into the IPO or any other company. Those, if you follow those parameters, probably you will be able to find the good quality stocks. Okay, so the steps begin with the company, their business model, the promoter, the industrial outlook, the fundamental of the company, their balance sheet, cash flow, P&L. If and of course the ratios, like the earning ratios, valuation. If you, I mean, able to find a company which is able to click in all these check boxes, then there is a very likelihood that it will tend to make a good money out of it. Then there's another question from Mr. Gaurav regarding how many lots IPO I should apply, in the retail or the HNI. So I think for retail it is 2 lakh rupees maximum limit, and generally allotment happens through the lottery process. So not everybody gets the allotment. It all depends upon the number of subscription that a company receives. So it's basically demand and supply. So I think for retail is maximum 2 lakh rupees that you can apply depending upon the lot size of the IPO.
Yeah, thank you, Moksh, for that. We'll soon have a non-ferrous metal, presentation. We'll keep you informed on that. Thank you.
Then a few more questions. There is one question from Venkateshwar Rao regarding the pre-budget recommendation. Mr. Venkateshwar, we'll have to see, how budget comes out. So at present, we are not giving any pre-budget stock ideas to our clients. We will wait for the budget because we come out with the budget note on that, and we'll also cover the stock ideas out of the budget that we that been delivered by the finance minister. So once budget speech get concluded, so we will make a detailed note on that, and the same will be available on our website, so you can have a look at it. Then there are a few more questions. How to invest in SME IPO through SBI Security? So I think the IPO can be invested through UPI. I think through our website we can do that. SBISecurity.in. If you log in with your client ID, so there we have the options available to invest. In case you face any problem, you can reach out to our dealers or the RM. They can help you out. Then Mr. Venkateshwar Rao again is asking about the unlisted stock recommendation. So, Mr. Venkateshwar Rao, we don't actually cover the unlisted companies. So, we basically do research on the company which are listed based on the publicly available information. So, that we are not covering as far as the unlisted company is concerned. Then let us look at a few more questions. Then Mr. Siddharth Malik is asking, what about investing in IPO with less equity base for long term? So, good question, Siddharth. Generally, what happen, a quality company having the low equity base can offer you a good return in the future. But I think you have to look at the other check boxes from a fundamental perspective before you go for the investment. Okay. Generally, a low equity base is also indicator that it's a good company, but at the same time you may not have the enough proper float, so the stock may go up and down very frequently. So but in longer term, if the equity base is low but the fundamental is good, there's nothing wrong in investing in such stocks. So to answer your question in short, yes, low equity base backed by good fundamental can be a good option for investment in the long term. Then Mr. Gaurav Inguli again is asking about, do you have the portfolio management services? At present, we don't. So what we do here is that we suggest our client in case they want to restructure their portfolio. That means they are already having a portfolio which has certain set of stocks, and they want view on that. So that we are doing it for our clients. So that we can do it, but at present, portfolio management services we are not offering at present. Then few more questions. If I look at Mr. Sunil Kumar Roy asking how the IPO is allotted. So as I said earlier, the IPO is allotted, based on the lottery system. So bids are collected from the investors. They are shorted, and accordingly, depending upon the different lot size, the applications are picked in, and accordingly the allotment happens. So it's a totally lottery system driven. There's no pro rata basis of allotment. So it's all depend upon your luck. Like you buy a lottery ticket, but it may or may not click. So same thing is apply for the IPO as well.
So Amit Chatterjee had asked, like, which is better for long-term investment, Mankind or Emkay? Like, as you see, Mankind is trading at a relatively cheaper valuation than Emkay, and the recent, the Q4 numbers were also good from the company's perspective, and they have guided for a mid-teen growth in FY25, and they are continuously trying to increase their chronic segment, which is a high margin value-added segment. So if you you should go for Mankind Pharma as compared to Emcure, because it is relatively trading at a cheaper valuation, and the company's prospects also look good.
Anyone else having any question, please put on the chat box. We'll try and answer it.
So Subhash Singh has asked on like a view on Tata Steel. So currently, the company had announced this FY24 numbers. So company had a highest ever deliveries of highest ever deliveries. So which is a record year for Tata Steel. But now the Kalinganagar is 5 MTPA commissioning line that will get commercialized within the next quarter. So you can slowly accumulate Tata Steel at these prices. Like we have a cautiously optimistic view on Tata Steel.
So there's one question from Jitendra Fulwani regarding the SBI card. Jitendra, due to compliance reason, being a part of SBI Group itself, we can't really offer any kinds of view on the SBI Group companies. So we are, we apologize for that. Then there are some other stocks specific questions. Generally, we wanted to restrict this particular session to IPO only, but it seems there are a few questions regarding Ultratech Cement, Gujarat Tools. So we will rather encourage you guys to ask question related to IPO. I mean, what kind of how to look at what to see in the IPO. I think these are the very basic questions that one can ask. Um, so, so let me try and answer the question on Ultratech Cement. So cement outlook is decent for long-term investors. So I think the way a government spending money towards the infrastructure development, the housing, etc., that can be an indirect play to the infrastructure space. So cement in general looking good for long-term investment perspective.
Yeah, so Moksh, like the outlook on metals. Like if I talk about the ferrous metals, so for the first half, like you should have sequential growth as compared to Q4. But however, recently, these HRC steel prices have corrected by 1,000 to 1,500 per tons. But however, the volumes will start increasing. As JSW Steel, Tata Steel, JSPL all have been increasing their capacity. So we are cautiously optimistic on that. And talking about the non-ferrous metal, you have Hindalco, which is well placed, so you can accumulate at these prices because the aluminum prices have risen from around 2,100 or $2,100 per ton levels to around $2,500 per ton. So the aluminum prices have been increasing. So you have Hindalco, you have Nalco. So non-ferrous is also a good space over here as compared to ferrous. So overall, we are cautiously optimistic on metals. Gaurav Ingle has asked on view on Tex Maco. So currently, the management has, given a very robust guidance of 45 to 50% CAGR growth for its business this year. But however, the stock price has ramped up in this recent month from around 174 odd levels to around 295 odd levels. So I would like to, to once the one it is highly valued currently. Once you can accumulate on dips once it corrects. Not for time being, not now for time being.
So for JNK Bank, we have covered this company in our Rockstar report. Fundamentally, nothing wrong with the company. We have covered in our report. So we have a positive view on JNK Bank at present. There's nothing is. I mean, I would say not very. I would say sector specific or company specific negative. So overall, the view remain positive for JNK Bank. We on IREDA. So while this company, it trading at a lifetime high, the outlook for the sector looking good. So I think the government focus towards the renewable energy remains very, very strong. So I think this company should get the benefit out of the renewable sector. So I think the view for IRED also remain positive. Then there's one question from Mr. Sunil Kumar Roy. Once the IPO money is taken by the company, on what value the trading continues? I didn't get your question. First of all, if I have to, if I understood this question, you mean to say that if the money is taken by the company, what they do with the money, or I mean, if you can just clarify, your question so that we can answer it properly. Any other question from any participant? So there's one question from Mr. Tamal Ganguly regarding, he's seeing that there's a downside risk to the market. So I can see, nobody knows that whether the market will go up or go down. We can only present you a scenario, and maybe you can take the call whether you want to be stay in the market or you want to be, remain sideways of the market. So the overall outlook, according to us, the market outlook for the market looking quite good in the coming future. We see that retail participations are rising. There's a money coming from equity SIP route, which is 21,000 crore rupees plus every month. So if I translate into an annual inflow, that is roughly around 2.5 lakh crore rupees, which is equivalent to what FI invest every year. And plus also the people invest through that direct equity market. There is a sense of overall financialization of savings. The people are going towards the investing in the stock market. There's a lot of awareness being created, regarding the stock market. Plus the economy, that's biggest, I would say, drawing factor for our market. We are the fastest growing market in the world. Government finances remain strong. If you look at the recent GST collections or tax collections from direct tax perspective, uh, plus the recent trade balance data, the performance of rupee or other macroeconomic indicators, all these suggest that we are relatively placed better as compared to the other market. So while you may be, you may be right on your opinion, but the scenario that we are seeing regarding the market, we believe that the outlook for long term looks decent. So though you may have to tone down your expectations, we believe that the large cap offers better risk reward ratio, and there's nothing harm. If you book some profit in the mid cap, small cap, maybe 20%, 30%, put money in the large cap companies. That can be also a good idea to balance out your portfolio rather than just keeping few company or few sectors, because investment is all about portfolio investment rather than just chasing one or two stocks. So that's the view about that's our view about the market. We remain positive on the market for medium to long term perspective. Any other question from anyone? Can we take the last 2-3 questions from the participant? Mr. Gaurav Ingul is asking, if the IPO is not allotted, then what is strategy? So wait for the IPO to get listed. If the IPO would get listed at a valuation which is higher than what market is anticipating, then it's better to wait for the stock to come down to the valuation level, and then you can invest in. There's no point in chasing the stocks, and just because the stock got listed bumper, so you miss out, so you chase. Let's not have the concept, or rather I would say FOMO concept, that's called fear of missing out. I think that should be avoided, otherwise you may tend to lose money. So buying a stock at a proper valuation is extremely important, in this, when it comes to investing in the stock market. So keep that in mind also.
Yeah, so Mooks, regarding retail industries, the company had declared their quarterly earnings few days back. I feel the stock to trade at sideways till September's second quarter result, because at the early second half of the year you'll have the capacity, the another 2.5 million ton capacity online, where you will have a 1 million ton capacity. So you'll have a massive jump in volumes as well as revenues. So like for time being, it should trade sideways, but we expect a good, a return from the second half onwards in JTL.
There's one question. There's one question from Mr. Sailesh regarding, can we open the minor age demat account with SBI Security? So you can open it, but you as a guardian will be the owner of that demat account. So nothing wrong there. You can do that. Gaurav Ingole again asking, suggest some multibagger idea. Again, I am telling Mr. Gaurav that we can suggest you where to find the multibagger idea. You can visit our website where we have highlighted or we have recommended this stock in the past, and those are fundamentally good stock. Okay, so rather than chasing only a multi-bagger, no one knows which company will become multi-bagger. Okay, so it's better to have a realistic assumption of return on the stocks and follow a quality stock. Even if you get a good return, let's say 50%, 60%, or let's say in 1 year or 2 year, nothing wrong there. I think no other asset class except equity offer that kind of return. So I think let's have a realistic expectation on the return rather than chasing the multi-bagger idea. Otherwise, what happened that if you have the multi-bagger mindset, so what happened that you never book profit. So in the stock market, booking profit is extremely important. Like when you enter the market, when you buy a share, exit also become very important. So entry, exit both important. And if you get good return, it is always advisable to book profits rather than just waiting for the stock to turn 10 bagger or 20 bagger. I think keeping aside your profit and investing into other stocks is also, I would say, a good option. Then Mr. Siddharth Malik is asking your view on Edelweiss recently listed IPO mutual fund. I'm not able to get your question. Is it that a mutual fund NFO, or is it that a company listed through IPO? If you can just be specific on that, then we'll try and answer it. Mr. Deepak Shah is asking, can NRI residing in US can open a demat account? So I think you can do it. You have to follow certain rules and regulations. There are a few stocks where you may not be allowed to invest in. So that I think we have to check with our compliance department before I can get back to you on that. But certainly, I think NRI can open demat account, but they have to follow certain rules. But nevertheless, we'll try and get back to you on that. You can leave your mobile number, so we will try and answer your question. So Mr. Siddharth Malik is saying that it's a mutual fund. So generally, I would say, Mr. Siddharth, investment into the mutual fund NFO or mutual fund IPO, what we call as a NFO, net new fund offering. Generally, we avoid investment in such options. Generally, if you are investing into a mutual fund, go for the diversified mutual fund, which has existing track records. Let's say 4 5 year investment track record, return track record, the expense ratio track record. Those are the important aspect when it comes to investment into the mutual fund. NFO generally, I mean, we avoid it. So, Mr. Deepak, we have noted down your mobile number. I will ask my colleague to get back to you on that. So, just wait for our call. We will answer your question. Can you take the last question if anyone has? There's a question from Mr. Maruti Patil. Is it a good option to invest in ETFs instead of chasing the multiple shares? Yes, that can be good option because ETF give you a fair amount of diversification. Okay, so that can be a good option for sure. Yeah, but ETF, it all depends what kind of product you offer. Is it a Nifty ETF or is it a gold ETF? Is it a sector specific ETF? Generally, a sector specific ETF are more risky than the diversified ETF, like let's say index fund, etc. So keep that mind, keep that in mind as well. Generally, an index like Nifty ETF are better option for the investment. And if you are investing into gold, then gold ETF is also a good option to diversify your portfolio into an asset class which is different from equity. So, Mr. Siddharth, can you share your mobile number? I will maybe add to it because this is a session for the equity. Mutual fund is something which is we need to discuss with my team also before I can answer your question. So, just share your mobile number. Maybe we can get back to you on that. Siddharth Malik, please share your mobile number.
Okay, so that was all. Like I hope we have answered all the questions, and thank you everyone for giving time and listening to our PPT on IPO analysis. Thank you everyone.